Now, if you are going up, then it's clearer for you, but it's still hanging over you. And one in particular is really bad. And then there are 3 others just before you hit the White River Bridge that are leaning down also, ready to tumble down over the road, but held up by the wires. So that's dangerous, pretty dangerous for me. And of all that I've seen in terms of what's happening on the road in this area, those two, that's really something that needs immediate attention. Another thing I notice is that I don't see a lot of workmen on the road. I don't see a lot of JPS. I don't see a lot of workmen. I am not, and I don't know why. I don't know why, if it's because there's some parishes that are so bad that all the resources are gone there. But we should have been prepared for this. The warning was long enough. We would have known, don't it, that a lot of people, a lot of resources, human resources would be needed. So I'm not quite sure what's happening. But at the same time, there are many workers from JPS and National Water Commission and National Work Agencies and all the agencies that are response agencies, the Ministry of Health and so on, who have lost their homes, who are in communities that have been ravaged, who are just themselves going through this very same situation we're talking about. And this is why in times like these, we really are going to look to our neighbors. We're looking to the Caribbean. I already see a whole lot of people coming in. And that's something we're going to talk about on the other side of this too. We just need to get through this before we talk about the armies that have come in and where they have come from. France and the US and the UK and so on. We've got military on the ground. Aid has come with military support, serious military support. We've got Israel in and everybody. So, but we are going to thank you for the support, but we want to talk about the countries I'm talking. I don't know what to say. This time for us is the most critical time because we need assistance and we are accepting assistance. Starlink, Elon Musk, technocracy and transhumanism, smart cities. Everybody's here. And so what we have unfolding, even while we need the help, and hear me trying to be nuanced, but seeing the disaster capitalism unfolding in front of me makes my blood boil 2 ways. Hold on to your land. Hold on to your land. You have been ravaged. Mark your land. I know you're not thinking about land right now. But hold on to your land. Hold on to your space. Disaster capitalism is rearing its head. Even while we are in the midst of a humanitarian crisis. And just to remind you that we understand. Let me take a break. We speak with Dr. Dayton Campbell. Now, I've been trying to get we talk to her every during every hurricane and every storm. My friend Audrey Williams from the Jamaica, from JPS, because power is out in a whole swathe of Jamaica. And my daughter is helping me this morning with production, with in-studio production. So she's sending me information that she is sourcing from across the news media. And here is one from the Gleaner. Electricity restored to 150,000 customers and more to come by today, says JPS. President and CEO Hugh Grant says restoration work has advanced significantly in Kingston and St. Andrews and Catherine and St. Thomas. And Grant says teams are on the ground continuing damage assessment. in these parishes to restore all customers. However, there are some areas that are currently impassable, and that is true. We head into, I drove from Otarias to Hopewell Marlborough in St. Mary yesterday. Was it yesterday? I don't even know if yesterday. I mean, if the days are just rolling into one. So I went to see my mom, and that's also a situation in Marlborough, in Hopewell. No electricity, no water, no network or spotty network, so people can't contact each other. And that route through Beaumont, we call it Beaumont in St. Mary, and for the authorities, Beaumont in St. Mary, that is between Liscard and Hopewell, that whole watershed area where no electricity can run because it's a watershed area, all the wells and all of that. That looks precarious. Trees are falling down. You know, the most ancient trees in Jamaica, I think, are in that area. And many have fallen down and that situation there looks away. And then also, as you get to going into Hopewell, and this is for Mr. Newell, the Member of Parliament, Newell, that Omar Newell, pay some attention to, I know you're doing what you can, but please pay some attention to Hopewell Marlborough in St. Mary, from Liscard all the way back down to Richmond and come down that whole circle, because there's a lot there, including how the electric wires are just falling down across the road. And as you get to Polly River, which is just a little bit from Liscard, there's something happening there, and as you go up, you can see what's happening. So pay some attention there. But that Beaumont area, kind of look away, and I'm a little bit concerned to look all the way into Fraser Wood and possibly Woodside. And as I say, Woodside, Nana Erna Broadbar, how are you doing, Nana, and to the people in Woodside and Rock Spring. And we can see you all from bottom Hopewell or top, yeah, we can see you all from over Marlborough. We can stay in our yards and just look over. And I'm sure you're doing the very same thing. People in Africa, people in Bongo Town, in Hopewell, in Rock Spring, as I said before, all that area. We know you're still without electricity, you're still without water. And we can see why the situation with electricity is really something as you drive across the areas that have been hit by Hurricane Melissa. The wires are down, the light posts are, them split in two, ravaged where there are wooden light posts, them just broken, they're strewn all over the place. And this is across Jamaica, So I know that JPS has a challenge, and I've read somewhere where JPS also said that the backbone of the grid is compromised, and that is making it more difficult. I go back to mental health. Because this is a serious crisis as we go through it together. What we need from the agencies is for you to tell us what's happening. I was of the opinion, for example, living where I am living, that would get electricity back by, say, 3 days at the most, 4 days, and, but here we are. Also, we are without water. So no electricity, no water. And the ability to communicate, nil, because the network failed us. Digicel failed at a critical time. I don't know why. I need to hear what Digicel is saying as to why it failed and why, we're taking such a long time to at least make contact with our people across Jamaica. Help me get in touch with my family is what people are saying to us. Help me find my family. I can't hear from my family. People overseas, people here on the island. And that is adding to the mental crisis because we do not know what's happening with our families. And a lot of them are in the areas that have been decimated. So this is critical. The communication is critical. It is vital. It is important. I see Starlink coming in. And a lot of people are signing up to Starlink. Well, this is a disaster time. In disasters, capitalists do not give up or pass up on opportunities, So know what you're signing away. Whatever you sign, read the fine print. And that is a fine print that we're going to have to read later, is the 11 billion or so that we're drawing down on. I know a lot of people are talking about that, and it seems great at the moment. It's good that we had that insurance. I'll talk about it on the other side of this. But so read the fine print. We right now there is this rush to communicate because we need to know, and it's an opportunity. But before you sign anything away, because we're the same people who are afraid of NIDS. What a laugh in the middle of a hurricane. These are serious times. These are dark times, my love. All around the land, bird beetles crawl. So we're the same people who are afraid of NIDS, but we're chasing Starlink. 12 minutes after 7 o'clock. I don't know. I can't tell you not. I'm not going to tell anybody to do anything. We are heading to smart cities. We're heading to technocracy and transhumanism. And if you read Vision 2030, the Jamaica National Development Plan, which is now Agenda, they're no longer saying Vision 2030, right? It is Agenda 2030. And do you have your books? There were 2 books that they published in about 2015? Let me see. I have my book done with me every time. Let me see. Published 2010 by the Planning Institute of Jamaica. So if you read your Vision 2030, them have a small book and a big book and an in-between book, but definitely 2 books. Agenda 2030, it lays out quite a bit of what we are experiencing and what you've been experiencing over time. But once again, I say we put that over DESA until we have sorted the immediate need. So we have a whole lot to talk about it. What I want to caution us to do, for those of us who can make the choice, because there's some Jamaicans this morning who don't have a choice right now. The choice is to breathe or to die. And people are choosing to live, and we cannot fault that. We cannot fault that if you choose to live. Choose to live. Choose to live. Every time, choose to live. But for those who can make the choice right now, be more deliberate. Be more critical. Be more cautious. Think deeper of the choices you're making and hold on to your land. Disaster capitalism is already rearing its ugly head. It's another term that we threw in this space many years ago, and every once in a while we draw it out. We started talking about this with Haiti way back in the early 90s. And here we are now. Here we are. All right, so we are scheduled to speak with Dr. Dayton Campbell at 7:30, and after that, then we're going to be speaking with the head of the JTA, the president of the JTA, Mark Malava. All right, so Dayton, we're not getting you right now at 7:15, that we understand. So let us know. Let me take a break and come back, though. Let me take a break. I'm in 10 minutes' time. Thank you, Dayton. And so JPS says that by midnight on Sunday, November 2, the projection is to have 90% of Kingston and St. Andrew restored, 90% of Portmore, 85% of the wider St. Catherine, and 95% of St. Thomas. The company also says that electricity restoration has commenced in central Jamaica, with sections of Clarendon already restored. And he said, Hugh Grant said, we continue to make headway with customers in sections of Clarendon, now with power. In addition, we are currently working in Manchester to restore customers with eyes focused on getting power to Mandeville Regional Hospital. There's still a lot more to do, but we won't stop until the job is done, he said. The hurricane caused extensive damage to its high voltage transmission lines, the backbone of its network system, along with essential distribution lines island-wide, particularly in the central and western regions. The company says crews, including overseas line workers, have begun rebuilding sections of the power grid network, including repairs to key transmission lines. Regarding hospitals and essential services, JPS says power has been restored to 13 of the 21 major hospitals. Back with power are Kingston Public Hospital, Victoria Jubilee, Princess Margaret Hospital, Bustamante Hospital for Children, University Hospital of the West Indies, Maypen Hospital, Morant Bay, Spanish Town Hospitals, National Chest Hospital, Linstead, Bellevue, and St. Joseph Hospitals. JPS has also indicated that it is providing power to 92 National Water Commission pumps, which is 37% of its critical facilities. 37, you know. Wow. These pumps are located in St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrews, St. Catherine, and Clarendon. The power company says it is also partnering with the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information to facilitate restoration of schools. It is important for us to acknowledge that this is an unprecedented disaster. Jamaica and, in fact, the Caribbean has never experienced a weather system of this magnitude. This is coming from Grant of JPS. He says, this hurricane is one of the most powerful on record, so we ask for your continued patience as our teams, supported by overseas crews, work tirelessly to restore power safely and as quickly as possible. Currently, just under 58% of customers remain without power, down from 77% immediately after the hurricane conditions subsided. The company, he says, continues to appeal to the public to prioritize their safety by avoiding downed power wires. And one thing I also want to talk about is when the electricity comes back to their homes. Should people be doing tests before? I know that's a big ask, but considering, take my home for example, we had leaking from where we never know so could a leak, and I hear everybody saying that we don't know where the water came from, because it certainly wasn't coming from I don't know, it come to me like it had come from no rain, and the rain came at us like needle points, or daggers, if you will, daggers with needle points. That's how the rain came. It never comes straight from up. It comes from sideways, like a martial arts movie. You know, the ones that set in South Korea, you know, the fantasy one, them. Daggers and daggers and daggers with needle points. That is how the rains came at us. And you know, I was just talking to Talia before she left this morning, and she said she had the very same experience of just leaking and not know from where. And so many people that I spoke to in the cone, especially northeast, the northeast St. Anne, northern and northeastern, northern St. Anne, over north and northeastern St. Mary, that this is our experience. So I'm talking about when the electricity comes back. You know, I don't know. So I'm wondering if they have time in these ravaged areas to kind of, if not to stop by, but to send information out then to say, how do you do a check? You know, because I know you said before, turn off the breakers and stuff. But before, you know, if you say lighter come back, say, for example, in a St. Anne's Bay today, do you have any advice for the people in the homes there? Like, should their breakers still be off? Or should they be standing by waiting for the light for just coming out of the house? I know some of this we're supposed to know ourselves, but not everybody know that. Not even me not know that. I'm supposed to know. So, but these are questions I have. Just them little questions in on the back of my mind. All right. There's a lot happening in the world, and if I get a chance this morning, I'll bring some of that to your attention, because there's a threat now from President Trump on Nigeria, and he's actually ordered that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, get immediately on the issue of Boko Haram in Nigeria. We have a lot to say about that. But the way they're framing it, they're saying, Christians are being killed in Nigeria, and so they have to go in. And so America is threatening Nigeria with war this morning as we speak. And it's not a joke. It's a very serious thing. Tinubu deserves what he gets in a way, but him alone, not all of Nigeria. He's been betraying the people of Nigeria since the day before him win until now. And here we are. Dangote Oil is a private oil company. It is in Nigeria. It's one of the biggest oil manufacturing company, in the world. But also, Nigeria doesn't have a public oil manufacturing going on right now, because all of that has grounded to a halt. And there's a whole lot to unpack with the focus that Donald Trump now has on Nigeria. This is very, very serious, because it is all but war in terms of what he has declared. And I don't know what he wants. People are saying it's oil, people are saying all kinds of other stuff, but it's oil in Nigeria, it's oil in Venezuela, and it's rare earth mineral and so on and so forth. But Boko Haram has really been wreaking havoc in Nigeria, but not just killing Christians, killing anybody and everybody, and must be dealt with as a terrorist organization. But remember, there was deep investigation back in the day about who was funding Boko Haram, who fund ISIS and ISIL, who created all of this, and who's the president of Syria right now, and what was he before? And we have had that conversation here in this space. So that's happening. Also, what's happening in the Caribbean waters is no joke. So I just heard from Dr. Dayton Campbell. I'm just let me do this, and we go right to this. Oh, okay. So Nia, you sent me something. All right, I'll look at it in a minute. But let me just. All right, yes. Okay, brilliant. We're hearing you loud and clear. Just check if we're hearing him in the control room. I'm hearing you loud and clear. And just say good morning again.
Good morning. Good morning to your listeners.
All right. Dayton, I know you are in the thick of things. I know we talk to you as a member of parliament, first and foremost, but as a Jamaican overall, someone who is now in part of Jamaica that has been ravaged by Hurricane Melissa. You have been witnessing this. I hear in your voice as you have been talking about this, how much it has impacted you. Tell us where you are now and what are the conditions on the ground.
All right. So I'm in White House. I actually live in White House. So the hurricane made landfall in a section of White House called New Hope. And it then made its way across the constituency. Went up to Darliston, then to Betheltown, Seaforton, and then it went over into Cambridge. I believe this is the only constituency in Jamaica of the 63 where it went across all of the constituency as a Category 5 hurricane. When we say it's apocalyptic, it's probably an understatement.
Goodness.
Whatever somebody thinks of, and every time persons come down, pictures doesn't do it justice, the videos. When you see it, if it doesn't elicit tears, that person is probably not human. It is a total and complete disaster. We, up to yesterday, I think the count has gone up, but up to yesterday, there were 19 deaths reported in the country.
Yes.
And in Eastern Westmoreland, one constituency, we had 10 of those. From my estimation, I believe at least 1,000 houses have been totally destroyed. I'm not referring to the thousands without roof, no roof at all, and the thousands with partial roof. I'm talking about the ones that are totally destroyed, just the rubble left. No structure whatsoever. At least 1,000.
Buildings were shredded, right? This is basically what happened there. And then you said something here.
Shredded.
You said New Hope, because many of us, when we heard that the hurricane was going to make landfall in New Hope as a Category 5, we had to go check our maps to see where New Hope was. But to turn out,
this is in White House.
Yeah, and
White House.
So that area in itself, where it touched down, that is where all the reports were saying that area would be shredded. And you're saying from there outwards.
It has been. Believe you me, it has been. The shelters, quite a few of the shelters lost their roof totally. The market, the fishing beach, total destruction. Majority of the constituency unrecognizable to people who even grew up in the constituency who've been here for years. Commercial buildings, the gas stations are down. I was saying to somebody last night, I never thought I'd get to a point where somebody from Kingston would call me to say they're coming down. What do you want? And I said, please bring me some petrol. Because people have to be carrying petrol to us so that I can move around the constituency. Because we do not have functioning gas stations at this point in time. They're working hard to try and get them up.
Yes.
So that persons can move around. Yes. But it is a total disaster. I've seen families under zinc. I've seen families under tarpaulin. I've seen families washing their clothes in the drains, in the river, in the sea. Believe me, it is a total disaster. And that's why I've been crying out for some attention. Because I don't know what happened. Well, I think it's because of the loss of communication over the first day. But persons all have been flocking to a section of St. Elizabeth. And I'm not, just to be clear, I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't assist those persons or that damage wasn't done there. The point I'm making is that just consider for a second that there are other areas that are worse than how that section looks. Including
Ground Zero, which is New Hope. Ground Zero.
Which is where it entered there. So, and if you what Black River looks like, Black River is severe damage.
Yes.
What Black River looks like, just imagine something being worse than that across all of our next constituency. Meaning from White House all the way up to Seaford Town. There are areas that we're still not able to get to.
Yes.
We had to...
Because these areas are cut off?
They are cut off, they're marooned.
Tell me about the areas. Let's talk about the areas. When you talk about the constituency, what are the communities? What communities are we talking about?
All right, so I'll break it down from constituency to division and then to communities. So
yes.
The constituency is called Eastern Westmoreland. And for those not familiar with it, it's the constituency of former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson. So the divisions, political divisions that are in there would be Betheltown, which is represented by the current mayor of Sav, Darliston, and then you have Leamington and you have the White House division. The White House is the biggest one, right? White House is the entry point when you come from border, the most eastern point that you enter into Westmoreland. That's White House. Now, inside of White House, you have areas like Cave, you have Bluefields, Belmont, you have Farm, you have Culloden, you have Gordon, Petersville, Beeston Spring. So those areas, Mount Airy, all there. Those areas are the main communities that we have. And of course, White House proper itself.
Yes.
South Sea Park, which is where I reside. Then you have Darliston, we have Lennox, Big Woods, Darliston proper, obviously. You have New Works, and you have Caledonia and those places, Beaufort. And then you have Bethel Town, extending around to Seaford Town. We have Lambs River. We have Amity. And you have Castle Mountain. Those are some of the main communities that are in York Mountain.
Yes.
Then you have Leamington. We have New Roads, community called Cottage, Berkshire, Dundee, Kilmarnock. And so these communities, one of my counselors up in Cottage told me that in his community yesterday, he was just doing an assessment and making a record of it. And there are, in one community, there are 23 houses that were totally destroyed in just the lower section of the community. It hasn't completed the entire community.
Wow.
And over 50 would have been roofless, and then hundreds more that suffered damage. I'm telling you, it is. I'm surprised to see how resilient some of these persons are, because it is bad. It is extremely.
We get that information. We get that point, because the little that we saw coming out, and then when I heard you, because obviously I've known you for a very long time, and so and when I heard you, I understood that your spirit was hurt. Just the empathy that you were feeling. I was a little bit worried for your own health and your own mental health. But let me ask you this: in terms of the road network, where are you able to get to, and how difficult or challenging is it to get to other areas?
So it's very challenging. The community has rallied, and persons use their chainsaws, their machete and things to create. So most of the constituency, you can move to most of it now by a single lane traffic. So if you're coming from Kingston, you could get into White House by coming on the south coast. The normal part that one would drive to come to Santa Cruz, then come to Lacovia, come through Holland Bamboo to Middle Quarters, and then come Luana to Border, and then into the constituency. You can make your way to Sam. So when you get to Ferris, you would make a right and head up, and you could go to Whitton and get it up into Darlington. Or if you continue, you could go to Chester Castle and you could go into Bettentown. So you are able to get to some of those areas. You have areas that are marooned though. Like up in Beeston Spring, there's a community up there called Tats Valley. You're not able to get to that community. And I've been speaking to members, including the JDF, and they have committed. Minister Charles Jr. has committed that they'll be coming into the constituency today. I've sent him the list of communities, so hopefully, and I'll follow up with him, that they can get into that area. Because even those that were responsible and made adequate preparation, the storm took all of it, the hurricane took all of it.
Yes.
So those persons would be without food and water. Because black tanks and those things didn't survive.
Food, water, and shelter. And
shelter, right. When we're growing up and they say these are the basic things, the staff of life, those are the things that people need. They desperately need those things.
So we have a humanitarian... Yes, go ahead.
There's another area called Amity, which is around the other side, bordering on St. James. And that area, there are sections of that community that's also marooned, that we are unable to get to. And so we want for the JDF to, drop some, use the helicopters, and if you could, there are areas that they can land, but if they can't land, I see it every year at Grand Gala. It's rappel or whatever they call it from the helicopter. They can go into the community so that they can deliver things and bring some medical attention as well. This is a high-stress environment, and so people that are hypertensive without medication in a high-stress environment, it's not going to be long before we are having a different crisis.
Yes. We down here already going through the post-traumatic stress disorder because we have dealt with so much already, and we're not as bad as that. But, just having experienced the wind and the sound and the mighty sound of the winds that rip through our homes, we're just coming to terms with it and having all kinds of post-traumatic responses. So I can just imagine people who were at ground zero and then just spreading out in that very same community.
You want to hear some of the stories from some of these persons. And so the place was ravaged, and then they had a 20-30 minutes that it was bright like a summer day when they were in the eye of the storm. And then after that 30 minutes, they heard the rushing wind coming again. And then there was just a second round of devastation. There's one lady that has zinc cut her and she exsanguinated. She bled out. There's another lady that the shelter collapsed on and she ended up dying under the rubble. It's trust me when I tell you I've been crying out because even now even though I'm just asking persons to have a look to what I'm saying.
You understand that Dr. Dayton Campbell is crying though, and we can totally empathize with this. There's a humanitarian crisis unfolding in many parts of Jamaica right now, St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. There are many people who not even a member of parliament has been able to reach, many communities. This is the seriousness of it. We're talking about people's lives. Is there, Dana, you're talking to me on Starlink. What is the communication like? What's the situation with communication?
So there's no communication using our normal telecoms. A few persons in the communities have Starlink, and some of them have been very generous in just opening access. So you see points that people gather. At any point during the course of the day, you see 50 or more persons at somebody's house, just trying to communicate to their relatives. We have a few areas in each division. The councillor does it in the Darlington area as well. Just to give access. There's another gentleman over in Seaford on Sheldon, one of the large farmers, that he has been a real trooper in just opening up his supermarket and assisting persons and allowing them to connect to his Starlink. Without that, we wouldn't have been able to communicate with a lot of these areas. And so we've had to rely on speaking to somebody there, have them move to our next area, even on a bike or walking, just to send back a report so we can know what is going on in another section of the constituency. I think way more needs to be done in our response.
All right, tell me. Let's talk about what needs to be done now. What it is? What is it that you're there? You're in the thick of things.
So first and foremost, I think that the JDF has to set up some bases across the constituency. Right? We're now day 5 after. We haven't had the president. Well, the PM has not visited us yet. We haven't had Minister Prenell Charles Jr. passed through yesterday on his way to South. And I think he stopped for a short while in White House. I missed him because as in a different section and the communication is bad. And Mr. Morgan said he'll come here today. But we haven't had that attention. Yes. We haven't had that attention to respond to where it is that the hurricane made landfall and totally destroyed a constituency.
Do we know why the Prime Minister hasn't visited Ground Zero? Because it would seem to me as if you would go to Ground Zero.
I'm not sure, and I really don't want to ascribe anything because at this point in time, I really just need.
What are they saying to you? What are they saying to you?
Well, most persons seem to have been unaware of the extent of the damage. And at least five ministers of government have said to me that they only became aware when they saw the post that I made. And I've been saying that because you did not hear anything out of Westmoreland over the first 24 hours, wasn't because there was comfort and normality. It was actually a cry for help. It was actually a cry for help because persons just could not communicate. Right? I don't represent Central Westmoreland. Represented Sav is represented by Dwayne Parts. He doesn't have easy access. But I can tell you from the aerial tour that we did that Savlamar has also been severely damaged. And Central Westmoreland has been severely damaged. So those are the issues. But I think the JDF needs to set up some base.
Yes.
We need a medical tent in different points in the constituency so people can go there, they can get food supply, they can get medical attention. I think NWA has to be fully activated in the constituency so that they can clear the roadways. There isn't a standing normal light post anywhere along this corridor, you know. Either they're fully down or they're almost down.
Yes.
Even the concrete ones broken in two. The trees do not have any leaves. When you're looking now out, it looks like it is Gaza or somewhere there where bombs have been dropped.
Dystopic. It looks dystopic. And I saw where you said it's apocalyptic, and I said, you know, you're right, you know, because the little that you're seeing, and even for us here, I mean, in St. Mary and St. Anne, some of the places this is the very same word that we're using, so I can imagine where you are. That you're talking about Gaza. Yeah, you're talking about, and it's interesting that we're making this comparison, but we have to make them so that people understand what the areas look like, what the people there are going through. What is needed now, Dayton? What would you need to see happen now, apart from the JDF, for people who are listening across the world who have been saying, how can we help? What can we do? What would you suggest?
Right, so setting up those bases, so at least you have a distribution point for each one of the areas. Right, so we know that, all right, in White House, you can have in the community center, so you can use that area. Up in Darliston, the Baba Roots factory, we have spoken to the son, and he's willing to give us access to their storage. They can use that as a distribution point. So I want the JDF to be able to have some access points across the country for distribution and for medical care. Right? That's one. Two, we need the roads to be cleared across the constituency so that we can get access, so we can get persons out of the communities who need to get medical care and other things. Right? As I've said, there are persons that are unable to get to a supermarket, unable to get anywhere. We need repairs to the gas stations, at least some facility so that people can have access to fuel. I've had conversations with Minister Vaz as to how we can get either a solar generator and some Starlink set up at critical points. We don't want to use the police stations or whatever other things so that people can have just access. People can communicate to their relatives and to the emergency services. We need a plan as to how we're going to provide temporary shelter for the persons who have been affected. Because, as I said, over 1,000 houses totally destroyed, not damaged, destroyed, where you only see the foundation. There's nothing else that is there. And that's because you might have had a higher percentage of board houses that were there to begin with, right? And so it would have taken off all of those, the ones that are concrete, that have zinc roof. Either the roof is totally gone, or it is partially gone. Either way, most of those places will need urgent attention to re-roof, even to get some tarpaulin to put on it. The government did make an allocation of $1.5 million, which I've used to access food supplies and some tarpaulins. But understand the context in which I'm speaking, that is a drop in the bucket as to what the needs are. So food and shelter, medical care, water is... Persons are bathing with way less than what is required just for an adult to clean themselves. We need some hygienic kits, right? Blankets, mattress, zinc ply, nails, flashlights, anything that you can think of that is critical. And there are some persons that have been reaching out. I have some persons that are heading to the constituency today to offer, to deliver some supplies. I'm grateful for those individuals who have responded to the call, and they're mobilizing resources to get to the constituency.
Can
But
people
when I said
get into
yesterday-
the? Sorry, go ahead.
Just a second. Yeah, just a second. When I said yesterday that this area needs to be declared a disaster zone, and person saying that the entire country was, I think they're missing the point I'm making.
Totally.
You have constituencies that have had minor damage. Certainly, you would not deal with that area the same way as Ground Zero, where landfall was made and where a Category 5 hurricane went across all of that constituency. That could never be dealt with the same way. We do not have currently any presence of JDF within this constituency.
That is shocking.
Up to yesterday, we don't have NWA mobilizing contractors in the constituency to be clearing the constituency. ADPEM, I've been trying to get in touch with ADPEM. I have not been able to get anything at all out of ADPEM.
This is strange to me, and I can't come to grips with what you're saying. You're saying it, and I'm hearing it, but I somehow it cannot register on any part of my brain.
If you can find the time to just come, you'll see for yourself that what I'm saying is the truth and nothing but the truth. I made the point because every time I speak, I'm a politician, so I understand. I speak, people think it's political that I'm trying to be, and I'm saying I'm not stupid. There is nothing to gain from me politicizing the issue. If I thought I was being victimized, and I came out and said, I'm probably going to be victimized even more. So that's not what I'm saying. I am saying to people, just come and have a look. And if after you've had a look, you don't see the need to cry out for help, then something would be seriously wrong with that.
I will certainly come down there.
I was saying that people need help. They need help.
I was there last week, we broadcast live from Peter Tosh Memorial Gardens last week. And so for me, this is all fresh in my mind in terms of what the area looked like. We had a quick drive through.
You should go there and compare it before and
right. So we'll definitely come in. For persons who can't come in is it easy to come in? Because I know there were blockages and so on. So can you?
I wouldn't say easy, but it is possible.
It's possible.
It's accessible. Yeah, it's single lane traffic for most of the journey. And, depends on if you have some of the bigger units coming through, you might have a delay.
Yes.
But it is possible.
Because one would wonder what's the situation in Anchovy, for example, for those who are cutting through the mountains.
No, you can go Long Hill, go to Anchovy and go to Chester Castle and get to Bethel Town or continue further down, as I said, to Whitthorne and then up to Darliston. So you can get.
All right. We have such a massive listenership in Darliston. All those areas you're talking about are areas that we have toured, in search of series. I recognize all of these names, our listenership wide across Westmoreland. As a matter of fact, IRFM's listenership in terms of Westmoreland, I think this might be one of the highest. Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth, by the way. So you're talking about our family who are suffering at this point in the way that they are. I know my colleague, DJ Amber, has just announced that she is setting up a charity where people can come in, or she's using her charity to get tents into Westmoreland. Tents a good idea?
Right now, it would be for some of the persons that I've seen that are just on a tarpaulin. Or just on a piece of zinc that they have just set up. Remember, some of these communities were already marginalized. They were already high on the poverty index. These are persons that would not have been able to store food for a prolonged period of time.
So food critical, medical supplies critical. It's food, shelter, and water. Food, water, shelter. What else we're missing? Medicine,
right. So yeah. I'm saying, let's just start from the ground, from scratch.
Yes.
You have a group of persons who have nowhere to lay their heads. So you need to provide some form of temporary shelter for them. So some of them staying with friends, staying with neighbors, staying with other things because their things have been destroyed. Some are staying in shelters, right? So you have that issue going on. They need food. So if somebody's staying with their neighbor, fine, but they need food, right? So we need to address that issue. They need water. So if somebody's staying with their neighbor, fine, but they need food, right? So we need to address that issue. They need water. So if somebody's staying with their neighbor, fine, but they need food, right? So we need to address that issue. They need water. So I've spoken to Minister Samuda, and he's trying to get some of the pump stations up and going and
Yes.
get generator so we can have access to that, and then we can send some trucks in so we can get water to some of the communities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hopeful that by tomorrow we'll be able to have access to that.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be able to get medical care to persons. You have persons who are diabetic, who may have a diabetic ulcer that you need to attend to. If those things are not attended to, you might lead to amputation, or lead to sepsis, if not amputated. You have persons that are hypertensive, and I'm saying, just imagine that somebody has high blood pressure, they need a medication to control that pressure. They don't have the medication, so the pressure is up. And then put them in a high stress situation where they don't have any accommodation, they're hungry, they're hurting, they may have lost family members injured. This is a recipe for disaster. It's like you're building a time bomb. It needs urgent attention.
People on insulin and the JTA, Mark Malava, will be joining me online, because as you know, many schools will be out for a protracted time, although many are going back tomorrow. So we're standing by to speak with Mark Malava, principal and president of the JTA. He'll be coming on shortly. We're still trying to come to terms with what we just heard from Dayton Campbell. 6 minutes after 8 o'clock, principal of Yallas High School and the JTA president of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Mark Malava, will join us online in a minute. That you sent, you reminded me of, which is everybody needs help sometimes. Jimmy Holiday. Yeah, I would play it. Just couldn't find it at the minute, but not quite sure what's happening with that. Nick, maybe you can help me with that, just to find out what the schedule is for reconnection and restoration of water supplies. All right. If you're in the United States, it's daylight saving time, roundabout in the US, just to say that. Someone asked about Dangote, the refinery in Nigeria that we mentioned earlier. Yeah, Dangote refinery. Just recently, I think it's just, today's what, November 2? It was just November 1. I think it's just November 1 that Dangote hit 70 million litre daily fuel output, surpassing Nigeria's domestic demand. And now we hear that war is being waged on Nigeria. All right, we're trying to get to you, Mark Malava. I think it's not your problem. It might be an internet problem that we are having here in studio. It's a bit slow. And but we'll get to you if you just stand by first. Mark Malava, as we have been telling you, want to look at what's happening with the schools and with the restoration of water. But online, we have principal of Yallas High School and the president of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Mark Malava. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Good morning to you. Good morning to your listeners.
Morning.
Hello, good morning.
We're hearing you loud and clear. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. Mark Malava on the Africa Forum this morning. Really appreciate you taking the time at very short notice too. And how was Yallas High School? How did you fare during Hurricane Melissa?
Well, I'm officially on leave, but information that I've gained, we did not come out so badly at all. Most of our roofs are slab roofs. So only minor damage to the farm, but outside of that, we came out on the better side of the hurricane.
In terms of other schools, though, not so good. Quite a few schools.
No, particularly those schools in rural St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, St. James, Trelawney, Hanover. Those schools seem to have been those institutions seem to have suffered immensely. Many of those institutions, don't they? Particularly though the older institutions. For example, when you look at Manning's High School, they were devastated in Hurricane Beryl, and they are even more devastated now. Wow. So when you look at many of these institutions, they did not come out well at all, particularly down that side of Jamaica.
Mm-hmm. And I know a few in St. Anne had some damage. Yeah. I think I saw your castle, St. Hilda's, and possibly others. So what can you tell us, though, about how bad they died? And I know as president of the JTA, some information, of course, will be coming to you, but from the information that you have and that you can share with us, what can you tell us about those that are, extremely damaged as opposed to those that are not so bad? And in terms of when are we going to see the rollout back to school? Because I did see a report from the Minister of Education saying that some schools will return tomorrow.
Yeah. So what the Ministry of Education is pretty much saying is that schools in Kingston, St. Catherine, and schools in parts of Region 2, which has to do with St. Thomas, Portland, St. Mary, I believe they said Region 7 as well, that has to do with Clarendon, will start to go operational once they are able to do so. I know that the schools down the side that the hurricane ravaged will not be able to resume school in the way that we know it anytime soon. Mm-hmm. It's the damage has been significant. There are some institutions that have just flattened, really.
What are some of the worst hit?
Some of the worst hit, I really can't say those institutions that are the worst hit. Mm-hmm. But I have seen,
just the communities.
The communities that have been seriously damaged. I know in Eastern Westmoreland, those schools a lot of those schools were damaged. St. Elizabeth, I know States experienced significant damage. Institution behind States, I think that's Santa Cruz Primary. Mm-hmm. They got some damage. Lacovia, those institutions down that side, they really got some serious damage.
Mm-hmm. I see the minister, in terms of what the Ministry of Education put out, they're saying regions 1, 2, 6, and 7. And these would be, region 1 and 6 would be where?
Let me just double check that. So what you're...
Right, I'm looking. I'm not sure if it's it seems updated. The info, update on school reopening. 55% of public schools expected to resume by tomorrow, and it says 1, 2, 6, and 7. You did mention 3 of these. I think 2, 6, and 7. Mm-hmm. So
what you're finding says 1, 2, 6, and 7. Mm-hmm. The region 2, for example, is St. Thomas, Portland, and St. Thomas, Portland, and St. Mary. Mm-hmm. Region 1 comes around to Kingston and St. Andrew. 6 has to do with Clarendon, and 7, I just need to double check where 7 is. Mm-hmm. But those are the particular regions that have to do with reopening.
So region 3, which is, I think, St. Anne.
Region 3, so when you look at the regions down that side, they are damaged. What I like to do though is just break it down into parishes. Mm-hmm. So what you're finding, for example, is parts of Manchester. Parts of Manchester will be able to open. Mm-hmm. They have indicated, but one of the major issues that many of these schools are having, it has to do with the state of readiness to really open. Mm-hmm. So what you're finding, for example, is that some schools don't have water, some schools don't have electricity. Mm-hmm. Now, while electricity is not the most important thing, water is going to be the most important thing, and that may create some challenges. What you're also finding as well is that the psychosocial aspect, the psychosocial needs of the principals, of the teachers. I don't believe that we are responding to that in the way that we ought to respond to that.
And I think this is a very good point, because as the students are suffering, as the buildings suffer, the human resources, the principals, the teachers, too, have lost so much in the storm, and have gone through. Yes.
Yeah, but it goes further than that, because the education system has been taking a beating over the years. We came out of COVID, the years, and what you're finding is that took a deep psychological toll on us. We went into floods. We had to treat
burial.
We went into burial and we had to treat with that. And then here comes the storm. On top of that, what you're finding is that many of these institutions would have faced some sort of trauma. So whether it is the death of a teacher, whether it is the death of a student, and these things have taken a toll on our teachers. It has taken a toll on our principals. And I don't want to take tails out of schools, but in the interaction with my colleagues, the principals, many of them are devastated by what has happened, and what many of them have seen is that the work that they have put in these respective institutions has just gone up. It has just been literally blown away. And they are in despair. And then have you ever heard it saying it's a lonely place at the top? It is true. Yeah? And then many of these principals are now going to have to turn around, hit the restart button, and lead their institutions along with their teachers. Many teachers are also suffering, and they're suffering because while they may be okay, their family members down that side of the island.
Yes.
And they are unable to get into contact with many of them. Many of them have lost their roof. Many of them don't have water. Many of them don't have electricity. And we are hitting the restart button to say, let's get back into school. I would have preferred that we take the time out to treat with the psychosocial needs of our teachers and our principals.
And that is in response to schools going, so many of these regions 1, 2, 6, and 7 going back tomorrow. You're saying that more time was needed because this is not an isolated situation. Even if the teachers are residing in these areas, they themselves are connected to other areas and might have even lost houses and entire communities where they are residing in. So in other words, to give this time, what was the conversation with the JTA in terms of the return to school? We have not really had formal conversations. I would have reached out to the leadership of the ministry. I would have spoken to them. I would have expressed some of my concerns to them. I know that there's a meeting that is being planned early this week. At that meeting, I will also raise my concerns. We have to. You see, one of the things, Kabu, when you talk about crisis leadership, that is what is required. Yes.
And crisis leadership has to do with what you do before, what you do during, and what you do immediately after, and how do you rebuild from that. We are in the immediately after phase of a crisis, and it requires a particular set of skill sets to help to navigate the system, to help to navigate the schools through this crisis. And I would like to see that come to the fore. And in a crisis, you are dealing with humans. That's what you're dealing with.
And so what would that look like in terms of how the rollout would happen, the back to school?
So for me, from a crisis standpoint, you have to reassure your constituents. You have to provide them with a sense of hope. Yes. You have to let them know that you care about them and what is happening to them. You have to provide immediate relief to them in the immediacy. You have to see what their needs are in the immediacy, and then you start the process of transitioning into normalcy. We are not at that point as yet, and I know the ministry wants to resume for different reasons. They want to, they want to say, hey, we're getting back to normal. There are days that they have to make up based on the code of regulations, but all of these things can be treated with on the back end. What you want is to be able to say to your teachers, we care about you. What you should be saying to the teachers is that we care about you. We are going to address your psychosocial needs. Take the time out to treat with your family if you have families down there, because if you're not hearing from your family members, it is traumatic.
Yes.
Yeah, it's traumatic. I reached out to a principal colleague of mine down in Westmoreland. I didn't get him. When he called me, and let me say so, that principal colleague is not easily ruffled.
Yes.
And all he said to me was, Malava, everything mash up. That's all he said, and that was all that he was saying. Everything mash up, Malava. And you can hear the hurt in his voice. And that gentleman is not somebody that is easily ruffled. Yeah,
I get it, and you're making a really, really critical point, which is to say that you might be residing in one area, but you are from another. Your entire family might be in St. Elizabeth, but you are living in Kingston. Your entire family from Westmoreland, but you living in St. Catherine. And so that the areas where the hurricane didn't hit that hard, you are expected to go now to principal, to lead, and also to teach, but you can't even get to your family. We just spoke with Dr. Dayton Campbell. Communication is almost nil in Westmoreland, for example. And so I get the point you're making in terms of how this needs to be done. So at the meeting tomorrow, you said there's a meeting tomorrow?
Not tomorrow. I think it is on Tuesday.
On Tuesday. So the JTA is expected to raise these issues?
I will be raising those issues in that meeting as soon as I get the word that the meeting is confirmed. I have already raised some of those concerns with the leadership of the ministry, but we are very concerned from where we are, because the reality is our members are hurting, they are concerned, they are traumatized. They have never seen something like this, and imagine, whilst I recognize that it could have been worse, because if this hurricane had taken the path of a Gilbert, then you know what would have happened. You understand? It literally cut the island in two, and one side of the island has been saved, but Kingston and St. Andrew is not Jamaica.
And that is the problem that I'm experiencing on the backside of this storm, that the decision making is coming mainly from St. Andrew, Kingston and St. Andrew, and not just with education, but with so much more. And there seems to be a coldness, a disconnect in terms of how those seat of decision is understanding what has happened to the rest of Jamaica.
It is concerning. Tomorrow we will be, one of the things that we have reached out to a couple of our teachers that we are in contact with, and that's down in St. James, that's region 4. So we we reached out they reached out. We got in. They are devastated down there. A team of us will be going down that side of the island to say how best we can reach to them and see if we can get some relief supplies to them.
Yes.
But the situation is dire. So what you're finding, for example, the Ministry said Region 1. Region 1 is Kingston and St. Andrew. Region 2, of course, is Portland, St. Thomas, and St. Mary. Region 6, they said Region 6, yeah. So Region 6 is really Clarendon and St. Catherine, and Region 7 is St. Catherine alone. Proper.
Okay.
So what they're basically saying is that St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, and Manchester are down, as well as Trelawney and St. which is Region 3.
I'm surprised St. Mary is on that, because, St. Mary, I know, for example, that Northeastern St. Mary got a battering. So I'm not quite sure how they are making the decisions regarding St. Mary.
They did. But it has been devastating. And we are not even looking at the economical toll that it is going to take. As a country and as a people, and because we are really talking about St. Elizabeth, we are talking about Westmoreland, we are talking about St. James. And
not a national conversation. Well, maybe that comes to the the CRIF or CCRIF, I think it is, but we'll talk about that on the other side. We're totally out of time. Mark Malava, thank you so much. And did you want to make another point quickly before we go? We have a minute.
I just want to say to our teachers that, the JTA is here for them. We are going to see how best we can respond to the needs of some of our teachers in the immediacy. We are saying to them, take care of yourself at this point in time. Their own mental health is their priority, and they should exercise due caution in treating with it at this point in time.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mark Malava. And Mark, of course, president of the JTA and principal of Yalas High School. All right. 8:20, just about 8:29 and 8:28 and 30 seconds. Listen up. Top draw dollars, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, hot pick and cash pot early bird draws are coming up next. Many calls, many questions coming in regarding the how people can help, and I know that there is a website and a link that the government of Jamaica has given. I'll reiterate that in a little while, and I'll tell you about 2 others. Obviously, we spoke earlier about what my colleague DJ Amber is doing. Get Amber on the line for me, please, on the backside of Cashpot. Let me have a quick chat with her about the foundation, her foundation, and the requirement for tents, especially for Westmoreland, where she herself is from. So on the other side of Cashpot, we'll have a conversation with Amber, if she is available, as we take stock of where we are, looking forward to what we have always been and what we will continue to be. A people who help each other, a people who look out for each other, community, that kind of a thing. This is needed more than ever before. If you can make it into some communities, remember what you just heard from Dr. Dayton Campbell. Food, medication, clothes, shelter, those are the urgent things right now. It's 8:30 and we're standing by for the Supreme Ventures draw, which we expect will come up any minute now, because she's just passing through to go. And, it's interesting because we were just speaking to Dr. Dayton Campbell, which mic you're on? Mic 3. And we were just talking to Dr. Dayton Campbell, and one of the things he said was, come down. Yes, that's it. Come down and see for yourself. And IRFM has already responded, because here is family. My cousin.
Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm blessed, black and highly favored.
Social media on their way?
No, well, social media went to Brownstown yesterday, but myself and a team that I put together were heading to Montego Bay down the west to bring some supplies.
Introduce yourself properly.
Oh, good morning. My name is Tristan Wilson, and I'm here.
Welcome. I'm very happy to see you this morning. So, all right, tell us what your plan is now.
So my plan today is to take out a bunch of persons to help to clear the roads, bring water to the people, clothes, diapers, stuff like that. Just basically supplies, batteries, candles, just to help them on the ground until a little bit of normalcy come back.
And this is your own.
This is my own initiative.
Yes. As you're heading to Mobe.
Yes.
You think you're going to Westmoreland?
I am going into Mount Carey up in the hills up there. Because one of my followers on Instagram, they sent me a message last week that he lost his house and all of that. So, and he's saying that persons up in the hills at these rural communities, they aren't getting the spotlight and they aren't getting the help because it's so far to get to them. So persons on the ground, it's easy for them to get things. So my team and I were going in the hills today to see what we can do.
So how many on the team?
So far I think it's about 10.
Where are the others?
About 10. They were meeting. They're on their way. So DJ Brian is coming as well.
Right.
So I'm trying to get out. Shanice is coming. You remember Jody Ann? They're coming.
Yes.
A little team all the way at Touch Out.
I love
family.
That. I love that.
Yes.
And you're meeting up?
Yes.
And then heading straight.
And we're heading straight.
Up in the mountains and around the hills and so on. And,
we have a cutlass.
Right.
And all of that.
Right. So do you have supplies?
Yes, I have supplies. Water, diapers,
Fenzik.
no, I don't. I didn't get any medication.
Okay.
But I got like canned goods. Okay. I got canned goods. I got stuff for babies. I have a lot of baby clothes. I have a lot of adult clothes as well. Right. Stuff for the men, blanket for, for family, blanket for babies. Stuff like, just try warm crackers, just little things that they might need.
All right. So, kudos to you. Very good. I'm proud of you and the team.
Yes.
DJ Brian. I listened to DJ Brian. The hurricane was, Tuesday. And it's kind of done by Wednesday, Thursday.
Yes.
And then DJ Brian was on Friday.
Yeah. Thursday. He was on Thursday, yes.
Right. He was on Thursday. And he came on and, just his introduction, it was so Gen Z, but it was brilliant. And then he played The Storm is Over.
Yes.
Nearly ball.
Everybody is talking about that.
It's near radio. Yes. I was listening to it too. Yep. And the radio we were listening to it on near was the first time you're seeing radio at, but we had to wind it up. Cause we don't have no electricity.
Yep.
So we have it's one of them radio where you have a little handle and you just wind it and let it
Vintage.
And it worked.
Yes.
Right. You have electricity at home?
No, I don't. But we have water this morning.
Water?
Yes, I have water in St. Mary.
St. Mary?
Yes.
Which part of St. Mary?
Emerald.
Oh, you have water over there?
Yeah, we get water.
Then you're not my neighbor. I must have water.
Yeah, water good to come, man.
Oh, I'm not pipe, no level, no.
Don't.
Because it's so like we have water.
I get a good shower this morning.
Oh, you did?
Good. So I look so cool. Thank you. I know a good shower these days is, it's like gold. But we have to be grateful.
My dear. Well, safe travel in.
Thank you
your
so
mom?
Much. Oh, she's good. Her roof got damaged, but it's nothing compared to what other persons are going through. Right. So I told her these are just material things. Things can definitely be replaced. So, we don't worry about stuff like that. We have people who are homeless. So I tell her, we're not going to focus on this. Yes. Rebuilding, we can do that, but we have to help persons who are out there and who actually needs help.
And we come from the same little community in St. Mary.
Yes.
Our people come from Woodside, Rock Spring area. Have you heard anything from there?
Yes, I spoke with Auntie Patsy this morning. She is in Woodside. She said that, after the storm, they weren't that heavily damaged, like little falling trees and here and there, but I'm trying to head there next week with some supplies for persons further up in the hills that that their house got damaged as well.
Right. So I went home and, to Hopewell Marlborough through that top Hopewell.
Yeah.
But when I got to my mother's house, I could look straight into Woodside, look straight into Fraserwood, look straight into, if you know my shop, Rock Spring.
I heard. It's clear. I heard about it. I heard.
You say she let me laugh. It's clear. I can see clearly now.
Yep.
I mean, goodness gracious. It really is something else. Well, listen, I'm not going to keep any longer.
Yes.
Tristan Wilson, from the social media department. Give us the program to host on, Ari.
Him and her and Trending Now.
All right. And you're sometimes on the morning show?
Yes, on the morning show in the mornings.
All right. Thank you so much, my darling.
You.
Safe travel. Take it easy. Greet the team for me.
I will.
Jody, DJ Brian. Anybody else on the team want me know?
No.
All right, well, greet everybody.
I will. And William, big up yourself. I'm waiting on you. William is actually listening right now. That's my taxi driver.
William!
So he's coming.
Oh, okay.
So we're supposed to meet at 10 o'clock. So everybody leaving out at
14 minutes to go.
Yes. Bye.
All right, safe travel.
Thank you.
Okay. Stalwart have interviewed many times, and we've had many run-ins, many disagreements, if you will, but mainly agree. We always disagree to agree agreeably. Distinguished scholar Dr. Christopher Charles, he has died, and I want again to send my condolences to his family, to the academic community, to all of his friends and colleagues. The Gleaner has an article in which who is quoted. There's a quotation from someone who says, his pioneering research and fearless public commentary illuminated the intersections of psychology, governance, and culture. Through his teaching, mentorship, and prolific scholarship, he inspired generations of students and scholars to think critically about the society we live in and to work toward building a more just and equitable Jamaica. So we've lost two stalwarts in the midst of all of this. And Hurricane Melissa is that the bond will be paid out, and up to yesterday or the day before, it said within 14 days, so we're watching that. I had to go, we have spoken about that bond here before, because during burial, a lot of us raised our voices to say, why, if the bond is there, if the insurance is there, why couldn't we draw down? Dr. Nigel Clark was at pains to explain to us that it's a special bond. You can only draw down on it if the country mash up. I remember coming here to say, but that is not going to happen. What Dr. Clark is saying will not happen. I said that. And then if that happened, then why would we need the bond? It's better for it not to happen than to insure for it. Anyway, so we had those conversations back and forth. But here we are. The harpinization of it all, the harpicization of it all, the harpification of it all. And so I'll talk a little bit about the bond, and I hear there's someone online who wants to talk to me. Can you get the information from him, please? And I'll read it. But I want to talk a little bit about the bond, because that was when we went searching for what this was, right? And it just seemed impossible, the AI of it all. It seemed really impossible, the weather manipulation of it all. Welcome to HARP and NOAA and all our friends, in quotations, on the island. So we have a lot to talk about on the backside of this. Remember a few weeks ago, we talked about what was planned for England. England, and I think they said they did it once and they were going to do it another time, which was to see the clouds and to do some special, weather manipulation stuff. So as to get more. They were going to block out the sun. One of the things they planned to do is to block out the sun. Before that, they were talking about how they manipulate the weather, and so we know that weather manipulation is possible. Nobody's asking if that is possible. We know that is possible. A lot of Jamaican people feel today that Hurricane Melissa was one of that. The Evan Thompson from the Met Office has responded, and he says, no, it couldn't be. But you can't dismiss the way people feel about things, having experienced this. And within the context of HARP and CERN and NOAA and small cities and the plans coming out of the UK to block out the sun and the seeding of the clouds that's possible. So there's a whole lot that is possible that the technology already allows you to do. So if the people raise the question, you can't just dismiss them and call them dunce and say only God alone can cause storm, because weather can be manipulated. And the scientists are very proud of this. The technocrats have been telling us that they can do this, and they do this from time to time. They have been doing this. For crying out loud, China has been selling air in a bottle since the 1990s. You know, we've been seeding the clouds since forever. What we are able to do is beyond our imagination even now. So do not dismiss people's critical thinking and deep thinking when they talk about what they've experienced and how different it is to everything else that they have experienced. And so they've raised questions. And the questions are not unreasonable questions, because everything they're saying is possible. If it was impossible and never been done, then you'd say, oh, go with that. But everything the people are saying is possible. The of it and the harpization of it. Well, don't blame me. We've been talking about harp in this space from the first day. Them build harp and let out harp, and they mention harp today and we're talking about it tomorrow. Remember that. So we've been talking about it forever and what they're capable of. And you see how them name themselves? Harp, little David playing on his harp. And also Noah. Noah was very, very careful to use the word catastrophe. But anyway, as I said before, that's on the backside of our healing, because first of all, we need to heal. In the meantime, do not sell your land. There's such a thing as disaster capitalism. Do not give away your dignity. Do not give away your rights. I know you're going through what you're going through, but hold on to your rights. Do not call down. Do not call down the RMA. Do not call down the DRMA. Do not call down certain things. There are some areas that must be declared zones of disaster. Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth. But do not call down smart cities. Do not call down technocracy and transhumanism. Do not call down Pegasus. Watch the warships that are coming in. The warships are coming in with hurricane supplies. Watch the planes that are coming in. Those that are landing at Ian Fleming. How much army personnel do we have on the ground? We don't have enough in a JDF. And Barbados and so. What is happening while we grieve? While we try to find our footing through this hurricane? There's a bag of money that's going to be distributed shortly. Hurricane Melissa hit as a Category 5 storm. Jamaica has a catastrophe bond in place. Last week, when I was talking about the hurricane, I said that they are using the word catastrophe, and I do not know why. And it was strange to me. Remember, go back and listen. I kept saying, this is the word they are using, catastrophe. And it was strange to me that they were using this as weather reporters and weather forecasters. But they were using it, and I said, okay, it's the word I'm using, so I'm going to use it. It turns out that Jamaica has a catastrophe bond in place, 150 million parametric catastrophe cat bond in 2024 by way of the World Bank. Because Hurricane Melissa met the storm intensity and the path of a storm criteria for the bond, investors are about to pay out. It's a lot of money. Hurricane Melissa brought extremely high winds and widespread damage. Jamaica's catastrophe bond was set up to trigger payouts if certain storm criteria are met, and the storm criteria that had to be met: the intensity of a storm, the path of a storm, and the pressure. And also, the path meaning the grid. That's a whole thing to unpack there. So, and as I said before, it was issued in 2024, arranged by the World Bank under Dr. Nigel Clarke's Ministry of Finance. So many of us looking on recognize that this would be triggered. And one of the first questions I asked my husband was, but this should trigger the bond, shouldn't it? The catastrophe bond, because I couldn't remember the name of it. I kept saying to him, but there's a bond, there's something, there's insurance. And it turned out that the value of the bond is 150 million. The purpose of the bond is meant to provide faster access to funds after disasters rather than relying on the traditional way where you get insurance claims and you know how bureaucratic that can be. So this is part of Jamaica's broader disaster risk financing strategy, which also includes insurance, credit lines, and reserves. Hurricane Melissa is seen as a real test for whether Jamaica's risk finance tools will function under a severe event. And so Jamaica passed that test. There's going to be a payout, and so it looks successful. Lots of questions on the backside of all of this. 150 million at stake. It's being triggered because the conditions include the hurricane's path, its intensity, including its central pressure. As you recall, Hurricane Melissa has recorded a very low central pressure. I think at one time it went to 901 millibars, and this satisfies one of the bond's intensity threshold. Because of the path and strength, the bond was triggered. So as I said before, it's a parametric catastrophe bond, CAT bond, meaning it pays out based on predefined parameters. Example, the intensity of a storm and the path of a storm. It is not calculated on loss after the fact. It's interesting how it works. Investors in it received a coupon interest, and as long as the trigger is not met, if it is met, then the bond can default and the principal is used for the payout. And the yield on that bond is about 7% per year for investors. So there are risks. If the bond's trigger conditions are met, investors may lose all or much of their principal. And so it's triggered. So we're seeing faster access to the funds. And we understand so it's about in 12 days' time now. But in 12 days or so, or 13. Right, so how does the payout process work? First, the trigger event occurs, which is a storm, Melissa. And it meets a preset physical parameters that we talk about. The central pressure, the path crossing one or more predefined geographic boxes over Jamaica. All of that is predefined. And that's why people are saying it is AI, and that's why people are saying it's manipulated. That's why people are saying it is harpification and harpization. Because it just, because they're grids. And it just turned to fit into the grids. And so on and so forth. So people have a whole heap of question, man. The people are right. But the people have asked some questions, maybe in answering the questions. Questions, nothing wrong with asking a question, As a matter of fact, one of the things I like is questions, people asking me questions, or even people disagreeing. Because you come to the best conclusion then you can't just dismiss people's questions and calling it conspiracy theory. No conspiracy, none of that. Because everything what the people must say is possible. Which conspiracy? With the JTA president earlier, Mark Malava, who talked about the schools that are going back to school tomorrow, and the extent to which the teachers and principals were generally left out of that conversation, the psychosocial issues relating to Hurricane Melissa that seem to have not been taken into account, and that teachers needed more time. He talked also about the readiness of a school. A lot of schoolrooms were used and classrooms were used as shelters and so on. And there are many communities and in the regions right now that some of the schools are going to be returning tomorrow. Some of our schools are still without water. We heard this morning from Tristan when she came in that there's some areas in St. Mary that got water this morning. They've been without water for days. I'm not quite sure how many schools in St. Mary have water supply, because obviously there are parts of St. Mary, all of northeastern St. Mary, that took a battering in Hurricane Melissa. The question is, are these schools ready to reopen, and what kind of reconnaissance will happen to determine, even though you say region 2 or region 6 or so on individual schools, to determine if those schools are really ready to be reopened, water, electricity, other issues, classroom issues, leaking, and so on and so forth. So I do hope that the meeting on Tuesday will help to flesh out some of that. But then there is a question of tomorrow, because I know for sure that there are places in St. Mary, many places in St. Mary, without water. I'm not talking about electricity. Most of St. Mary now have no light. But water, which is critical for you to be carrying 100, 200, 300 students back to school. If there's none of that, then even though your region is on the list, should you, as a principal, be able to take a decision or have a space through the JTA or someone to say, but my school is not ready, I can't reopen tomorrow. You know? We tried to get Minister Samuda on for this morning, and granted, yes, we did try late. Everyone you heard this morning, we got them. We tried late because we were watching to see how things unfold. And this is what media is like, and politicians are used to that. The technical people who we have reached out to have, for the most part, pushed us to the politicians. I have been in media for a very long time, news media in particular, Jamaica news media. And this is, within the last few years, I'm seeing a change that is curious, which is to say, the technical people are being pushed to the side, and the politicians are the ones who are telling you the technical things, that them still have the technical person by them side, ask them, say, oh, that did go again. This is ridiculous. Get out of the way, politicians, and allow the people to do their jobs. The technical people with knowledge. We can't get any technical person anymore. The politicians have, when it started happening? During COVID. If you remember, I asked a question here during COVID. What happened to the technical people? Why is it that everything we are being told was coming from the politicians? And the fact that the politicians were the ones who were coming to the fore and telling us all these things told me from early in the day that this whole thing was a pandemic, that there was something coming on the other side of it, which we're not questioning anymore. And here we are again. We have such a disaster. And for the most part, the technical people have been pushed to the side, and everywhere you turn your buck up in a politician. Something not right. So anyway, the payout process step by step of the 150 million. Look here. The damage to Jamaica is in the billions, The 150 million helps. We don't know how much of a payout. But anyway, let me go on. I think them pay not a big money. All right, so the automatic data capture, the Met data, and we were watching this, right? The meteorological data, the satellite. Remember, there was a big thing about Noah sending in the plane and how much time the plane going under the plane have to come out. You have all a man where vomit on air. I mean, there was just such a massive thing made about what the satellite process and reconnaissance aircraft and pressure readings, you had to know that this automatic data capture, this phase, because you have many phases. You have the trigger event, which is the storm, Melissa. Then the second phase is the automatic data capture. According to the insurance, if the automatic data capture not did it, you cannot get a payout. So we were very sure it happened. And there was a lot of discussion about that, a lot of conversation about that. The documentation defines exactly which data sources and what measurement windows count. All of that was being done openly. Then independent verification, that's phase 3. Now, a designated independent model data provider, the parametric verifier, defined in the bond, in bond terms, runs the measurements against the trigger rules and issues a verification report, and this replaces slow on the ground loss adjustment. So we have the independent verification that was also out in the open, right? The model data provider, the parametric verifier. That, I mean, it couldn't be more. One of the questions I asked last week and right through the week, how come we had so many storm chasers coming into the island? Yes, we know it's category 5, etc., catastrophic, etc. But remember, I'm telling you, I've been covering storms all my life. And one time I used to read weather. So we know this was different. This was different. We cover storm everywhere in the world. This was different. The amount of storm chasers and duppy catcher and bullbucker that came into Jamaica. And they made public show of it till them all catch up on air with Jamaica and social media with Jamaican people. So that happened. And then you have a calculation of payout amount. The verifier calculates the payout level using the bond's stepwise schedule. For example, a sliding scale that pays 30 to 70% of principal for pressures between X and Y in a specific box, and 70 to 100% if below a lower threshold. If multiple boxes are hit, the schedule aggregates according to the bond terms. So a lot of things have to work together to happen. A lot of unlikely things have to come together for the bond to be paid out. And every single one of those unlikely things happened in Jamaica in the last few days. And then you have notification and trustee instruction that speaks for itself. And then you have a speed of payment that also speaks for itself. We already hear it's going to be dispersed in just about 13 days. And then the use of the funds is one of the steps, right? The sovereign or the entity that is named as the beneficiary, which is Jamaica, receives the proceeds and can deploy them immediately for emergency purpose, stabilization, and early recovery activities. The funding is fungible and can be used as the government sees fit to address urgent needs. And that is a critical phase, the use of the funds, a very, very critical phase. And it might speak to and might help us to understand what we see unfolding in front of us at the minute. Bear in mind that there is a committee set up that is not bipartisan, and that ground zero is being ignored, and so many other things. And if you ask questions, they call you tribal, they call you, you know, I am not a politician, but I suffer the consequences like Peter Tosh. But must we not ask questions? Used to be a bipartisan committee, response, disaster after hurricane committee. It must be bipartisan. I have some independent people panic because we know ourselves. We know our people. And this is not a time to tribalize anything. I don't know if Melissa recognized JLP roof and PNP roof differently. The people who are calling me and bawling from all over Jamaica, I don't know them as belonging to nothing apart from Pan-African, African-centered, cultural, academic, trying to make a way through life, just trying to survive and make sure they don't crucify Jesus again, as my friends upon the social media. But here we are with a very tribal situation unfolding, and we rebuke that with everything that we have. We must push back against that. Let me take a break. But let me just quickly continue with the steps, right? In how the bond is triggered and how the payout process works. So there is the reporting and audit, which is the last process. So post-event, issuers and the World Bank or the arranger typically publish verification and settlement documents so that markets have transparency on the accuracy and timing of the payout. Now, we are also to ask for transparency in how the money will be used, distributed, and in which communities, and who will be the overseer of all of this and so on. There are questions to be asked, and we must ask them. And it is journalism's role not to pet and powder and be friends with nobody. It is our role to ask questions and to demand answers on behalf of the people. There goes the fourth estate. More powerful than them all. Should be. By the way, as I said that, there's something happening in England that we haven't talked about, but we must talk about it. Let me see if I get 5 minutes to talk about it. So there's rapid disbursement of this plan, of these monies, and this is positive. Let us see how it goes, because we really do need this. So that is good. That's a positive. Search and rescue, although we see that what's happening now, but the money is not, I think they said 14 days 2 days ago, and so it's still a few more days before the money comes in. And there are limitations on the ban. It's useful but small relative to total economic loss expectations. And so it's a stoppage, it's not a recovery solution. And hopefully it will shift the risk from the taxpayers to the global capital market. So let us see what happens there. Parametric payouts come with large conditionality strings, unlike some loan finance. So sovereignty in spending is more preserved. So this is also not a bad thing, the bond itself. But there is a heavy reliance on the market solutions. And this can produce reputational narrative that a country outsourced disaster protection to financiers rather than domestic reliance, which has political implications. So there's a whole lot to go through with that. I am not an economist nor a scientist. Geopolitical positioning is something that we have to talk about. And I think we'll come back to this, you know. We'll come back to this catastrophe bond. It sounds technical, but it's pretty real, and it's something that is about to be paid out. And I'm quite sure that we'll return to it next week, Sunday. Inshallah. So, I mentioned Nigeria earlier. We're all over the place. We're just about 20 minutes to go before the end of the program. But I mentioned Nigeria earlier on, and to say that America seems to be declaring war on Nigeria. Very serious comments coming from Donald Trump. Sometimes you want to ignore them, sometimes you don't want to pay them mind. But Nigeria has responded. Al Jazeera is reporting that Nigeria says it would welcome assistance from the United States in fighting armed groups as long as its territorial integrity is respected. This is after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened military action in the West African country over what he claimed was persecution of Christians there. Trump said yesterday that he had asked the Department of Defense to prepare for possible fast military action in Nigeria if Africa's most populous country fails to crack down on the killing of Christians. This is how they're phrasing everything now. Christians against the rest of the world. The only time that killing of Christians don't matter is when they're killing Christians in Gaza. So a spokesperson for Nigeria's presidency, David Bwala, told Reuters news agency on Sunday, that's today, that the country would welcome U.S. assistance as long as it recognizes our territorial integrity. He says, I am sure by the time these two leaders meet and sit, there will be better outcomes in our joint resolve to fight terrorism. But I don't know if it's as simple as that. It seems to me as if there's a whole lot behind it. We'll have to spend some more time looking at what the plans are and how Nigeria is going to resist and defend itself. Also, as I said, there is an interesting thing happening in the UK. And I know we're probably not paying attention to it because it seems so frivolous, but I think that we should, because Jamaica is still bowing to the throne that protects sexual predators. And we have a situation with Prince Andrew, Jeffrey Epstein, and we find Charles III, still our head of state, protecting someone who's being outed now as an alleged pedophile, and we see this as a betrayal. You see, there's something happening that Jamaica is pretending that they're not seeing, and the media is ignoring that the monarchy in Britain is under a cloud of corruption, sexual deviancy, lies, treachery, treasonous behavior, pedophilia, and all kinds of, according to King James the First and King James the Sixth, necromancy. Because that's what he would call it, if you read in book Demonology. All of that is happening now in the United Kingdom. And if James the First or James the Sixth was King of England, he would probably behead all of them. Not only that, he'd probably burn them at the stake, because that was his way of doing things. But here we are, pretending with our head in the sand, pretending that we don't see that the monarchy that we bow to, the monarchy that we refuse to give up, the Privy Council that we shelter so much and we are so protective of over the CCJ, that they are embroiled in all kinds of sexual deviancy at the minute. Our ancestors fought for freedom, for dignity, and for justice. And here we are pledging our allegiance to a monarchy that continues to protect pedophiles, that perpetuates entitlement. And you must read a book entitled by what's his name, Andrew Downey or something to that effect. And we're still deferring to the Privy Council in London. We still are not are afraid or reluctant to embrace the Caribbean Court of Justice in this legal servitude that we find ourselves in. So the Andrew Epstein scandal is ongoing in England. It's a wake-up call. The British monarchy is morally bankrupt. Jamaica cannot claim sovereignty while giving respect to such an institution. So Hurricane Melissa, and we're cleaning up and we're fixing up, but we can walk and chew gum, we can ride and whistle. There's a lot happening around us that we need to pay attention to. There's a whole lot that I didn't get to this morning, because guess what? Last week was quite an active week. Okay, let me quickly go through some of what I have, right? So, Columbia State's media is taking a stand. The RTVC, the country's public broadcast system, just announced that it will no longer use the U.S. government language to describe military operations in the Caribbean and the Pacific. Instead, they'll call them what they are: extrajudicial executions and human rights violations. The head of RTVC also condemned threats against President Gustavo Petro and vowed not to normalize talk of U.S. military intervention in Colombia or the Caribbean. So they are using the right language. They are saying extrajudicial executions and human rights violations. If our media could take a leaf out of their books. We understand that satellite images of a U.S. military ship just under 200 kilometers from the coastline of Venezuela carrying out military drills, and this has been verified by Sky News. Satellite images showing a U.S. military ship just under 200 kilometers from the coastline of Venezuela carrying out military drills. And right, let me just go there. UN Security Council has backed Morocco's claim over Western Sahara in a resolution supported by the USA. The Council endorsed Morocco's 2007 autonomy plan as the only realistic path to peace. 11 countries voted in favor while Russia, China and Pakistan abstained. Algeria did not join the vote. The resolution also extends the UN peacekeeping mission for 1 year. Morocco sees the region as autonomous under its rule, while Algeria supports Shawari self-determination. Watch that. It has legs. All right. So President Trump warns Nigeria the U.S. may enter guns a-blazing. That's the words of President Trump. The U.S. warns that President Trump has warned Nigeria that the U.S. may enter guns a-blazing. And that's what Nigeria is responding to. Minister Grange, Babsy Grange, has made an announcement, which is very interesting. We support this announcement. She says, her ministry will be leading a series of fundraising concerts on the island and across the world to support Jamaica in the aftermath of a devastating Hurricane Melissa. The minister said the 5-concert series dubbed Jamaica Love would feature some of the island's best reggae artists and musicians, as well as Friends of Jamaica, with all proceeds going towards the National Recovery Program. She said, we have been hit hard by this very powerful hurricane, which took lives, and in which many of our citizens lost everything. We face a long and challenging road ahead, but we will recover and rebuild stronger with support and by working together. And I hope the artists and all of those who are coming to perform for free, and we're not using any money, anything from the catastrophe bond to pay. Nobody at all, nobody, not a soul. Send it to, before you use a catastrophe bond to do concerts, 7 or how many concerts across the island, carry it down to Westmoreland to Ground Zero and make some houses for the people. So the first Jamaica Love concert is scheduled to take place on November 14 at the National Stadium car park in Kingston, beginning at 7:30 p.m. The details of the other concerts will be announced later. So I do support this move as long as people are giving up their services in a charitable way and we're not using the money that's supposed to help the people to pay anybody at all. So Donald Trump's gunboat diplomacy is still happening. The aircraft carrier, I'm rushing, I need to slow down. The aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford, built by the U.S. Navy as the most capable, adaptable, and lethal combat platform in the world, is being sent to the Caribbean as the Trump administration ramps up military pressure in the region. And the military assets that the USS Gerald Ford is bringing into the Caribbean, a displacement of more than 100,000 tons and a length of 1,100 feet. The Ford is the largest warship the U.S. has ever put to sea. The last time they saw it, it was off the coast of Italy, so you know it's going to the Strait of Gibraltar. It's going to head out in the Atlantic Ocean and head for here. It was commissioned in 2017. It's a first of its class, the successor to the Navy's 10 Nimitz-class carriers, the oldest of which will be retired next year. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this ship. It carries a crew of almost 4,600, including its air wing. That's about 20% less personnel than the Nimitz class, which the Navy says is possible because of more efficient systems on the Ford. Those efficiencies are what make the Ford the most advanced carrier in the world and result from its 2 nuclear reactors, whose exact specs are classified, but that put out 3 times the electrical power of those of the Nimitz-class ships, according to the Navy. That extra power enables the Ford to operate the electromagnetic aircraft launch system, using magnets instead of steam to power the ship's catapults, gives the Ford the ability to launch aircraft faster and with heavier weapons and more fuel, increasing the range and lethality of its fighter jets. The USS Gerald R. Ford, the largest aircraft carrier of the U.S. Navy, is seen off Croatia on October 21. The USS Gerald Ford R. Ford I think it's beyond that now because it was closer to the Strait of Gibraltar. It looks like it's going to the Strait of Gibraltar. The same science applies to its 11 advanced weapons elevators, which use electromagnetic motors rather than hydraulics, meaning it can move munitions more quickly from magazines to the flight deck and loaded onto the aircraft. The ship also boasts the Navy's advanced arresting gear, the system which essentially grabs the tail hook of aircraft with wires when they touch down on its flight deck. The Navy says the digitally controlled system allows for increased sortie rates and lower energy consumption. The Ford's flight deck is about 4 feet wider than the Nimitz class, and its island, the portion of the ship rising above the flight deck, is smaller and set farther back, giving more space for easier handling of aircraft movements. The sharp teeth of the Ford are the FA-18 fighter jets in carries. The twin-engine Boeing aircraft can carry a range of air-to-air, air-to-ground, and anti-ship missiles, as well as laser-guided bombs. They have a maximum combat range of 1,250 miles. This is a ship that they're sending into the Caribbean waters, but Papa Jesus, that would turn off a rager. The Ford also carries electronic jamming aircraft, airborne early warning and control panels, cargo and passenger planes, and helicopters. And goodness gracious. Ford into fighting shape was a struggle with the Navy, they said, but it's done and it is coming into the Caribbean. Wow. There's a whole lot that I didn't get a chance to go through today, but I'll pick up next time, inshallah. My in-studio producer, my daughter, did a very good job this morning. Nia Munifa Taishi Williams Green. Thank you so much, my daughter. Was it good? Did you enjoy it? This is not your first rodeo, because you also did. Grab the microphone over there, sir. Because you also did, well, you're born not a studio, but you also did Egypt, which Egypt alone, and I think Shamara trained you very well. You did Ghana with Shamara, and you did Egypt, and I'm very happy that you were able to come in studio this morning to assist with the in-studio production. And my Kingston producer, Natisia Bahad Singh, I heard you couldn't get your IRFM this morning. I don't see a lot of my Kingston producers this morning, so it seems to me as if a lot of people in Kingston weren't hearing us this morning. And then my Netherlands producer, I don't see you either. Quite a few producers I'm not seeing this morning, but anyway. So how was it?
It was very good. I learned a lot, running up and down, connecting calls and everything.
And how different is it from Egypt and Ghana? In Ghana, you had Shamara training you, so in Egypt you were alone. Is it much different?
Yes, I think it's different because it's actually hands-on with all of the equipment and different from Ghana, where everything is more.
But you were setting up the equipment in Ghana, you forget. And then also, one of the things that happened this morning is that you were liaising between In Ghana, in Egypt, you were liaising with the telephone operator on the phone and didn't have to make any personal interaction.
Yeah.
But this morning it was a little different.
Yes.
All right, so you'll do it again?
Yes, I will.
Okay, let's ask Auntie Debbie. All right, okay, thank you so much. That's my daughter, Niamanifa, who was in the studio with me this morning, just liaising with our telephone operator, Khadija. And it's so good, Khadija is working with us for the very first time this morning. And I didn't even know it was Khadija who was coming in. But that kind of just leveled the playing field and made everything well. Now listen, we're going to be leaving out of here, but the work is continuing. As a matter of fact, the work is intensifying. If you can, remember you heard Dayton Campbell he said to someone, bring petrol. Somebody asked, what can I take for you? He says, bring petrol. So that's also a consideration for, but ask first. But tin stuff, water. Do not forget water. Because right now, let me tell you something. Water is critical. Water is life. Water for drinking, water for bathing, water for feed your dog. Remember your pets. Do not forget your pets. And you have to feed your pets. You know, water for cooking, water for wash plate. If if you can buy disposable and so on, good. But in some areas, there is no shelter. I was trying to get my sister Amber, but I think she might be sleeping. She was up so late last night. But so she is, and you'll hear more from Amber about the project she's undertaking to get tents into Westmoreland. All right? There's a whole lot that we can do. Ask, but sometimes you really don't even have to ask. Water, tin foods, tin stuff. People are running out of food. My friend Joy in St. Elizabeth told me that. People are running out of food in a serious kind of way. So that's something. Let us look out for our neighbor. Do not sell your land. Disaster capitalism is about to take over. Watch how you sign up for every and everything. We want to communicate with each other, but we could go back to the days of the Maroons. Make we beat some drum from here so to over there. So no, I don't mean that flippantly. I just mean to say, read the fine print. Read the fine print. Remember, me tell you, we are in an age of technocracy and transhumanism. Agenda 2030 is about to unfold in Jamaica. Smart cities and all of it, regardless of who started the hurricane or where it come from. And if David was playing on him harp, or if Noah was warning the people, wherever it came from, we're about now entering this new fourth industrial revolution in a very serious way on the backside of this. Remember, they told us the plan for Treasure Beach, they told us, and my heart goes out to people everywhere across Jamaica. But there is a bigger plan for North Place. Treasure Beach is to become the Martha's Vineyard of Jamaica. This is the last thing we heard about Treasure Beach. And for that to happen, you have to sell your land. And I'm just saying, be very mindful of what you do, what decisions you make while we are going through this disaster. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your family. Romaine is in for the big A. Is it raining outside? Is it cold outside?
No.
The way I do know who they. Oh, it's cold in here. Yeah, that's true. It's very cold in here. This is like winter inside here. So how much degrees inside? So?
I don't know.
Below 2?
Well, cold.
Something to that. All right. So you're not on the team, obviously, because you're working. You're not on the team that's going into Trisha and them team. Right. But you know about it?
Yes.
So, okay, you're not on the team. You should call Biggie and tell Biggie I have to go somewhere. Remember Biggie never go up on a cruise,
Yeah,
Oh, you were supposed to be on a cruise? Oh. So why could you wait so long for leave?
Well, I mean, my leg of the cruise was.
Oh, to come from here. Okay. Well, how did you fare? How are things at home? You're good?
Yeah, man, everything is okay.
And mommy and daddy and everybody good? Mm-hmm. right. I did speak with your dad, so I know, cool.
Yeah,
All right, so Romain is in for the Big A. He's going to take you through the Sunday sunshine. This is how we say goodbye for today. Until next week. See you then.